The first subject I want to talk about is myself. And I swear to you, everything's going to be tied in. I swear to you, I swear to you, I swear to you. Okay. Um, I am the infamous JD. I have a gaming show called the Gaming Pulpit where basically I am preaching about gaming, essentially. And nothing over the top or anything like that, but it's a lot of things that y'all young bucks don't know about gaming in general. And I wanted to kind of enlighten you motherfuckers. So, and if you are an older gamer like myself and are not enlightened, I want to enlighten your asses too. Um, my channel is Sony centric, not PlayStation centric, but Sony centric. And yes, I am biased towards PlayStation, but I'm no fool. So there's a lot of things that I want to talk about. A lot of things I will talk about regarding Sony products, whether it be their phones, their headsets, their headphones, etc. So let us begin by basically stating um, there is some misconception about a fan of Sony or a fan of PlayStation and being a fanboy. And a fanboy is not what I am. Okay. Final Fantasy just recently released, and I will tell you this throughout my whole gaming shows or podcasts or anything of that nature, I'll keep it real. I'll keep it real. I'll keep it real if I have a problem. Most people know that I do not like Naughty Dog that much. I really don't. I think there's better developers under Sony than Naughty Dog. Okay. I don't like the whole social justice warrior shit that they've been doing in their games. It's cool. It's been talked about. It's been documented. Whatever. But what I wanted to talk about is Final Fantasy. Supposedly, I'm supposed to be picking up Final Fantasy. I'm going to tell you right now. Yes, it's shipped. I want to tell you because there's a lot of people on Twitter stating that it sold or outsold Spider-Man. It shipped 3.5 million units, so we don't quite know where's that. It did pretty well in general. I mean, it's a remake of a really popular game. It did really well in Japan and whatnot. Um, and I'm not into it. I'm just going to tell you straight up. I'm not saying it's a bad game. I've never been into Final Fantasy. I don't like these remakes where they refuse to, you know, do it one for one. I feel like they shouldn't have released the game if you can't complete the entire series. Like, why should I buy the game in chunks? Yes, the argument will be about, well, they fleshed out this one area, blah, blah, blah. But, I envisioned a Final Fantasy when I first saw the CGI cutscene. They used to call it pre-render FMVs, full motion videos. When I first saw that back in '97 and '98, I was impressed back then. I really was. And not so much now. I'm not impressed. Not to say that it doesn't look good or talk about low textures or whatever the case is, whatever the fuck everybody's talking about when it comes to Final Fantasy and whatever fanboy shit and stupid things like that. But I heard it was linear, and I was expecting a full city that you can explore. If you couldn't, make that into a reality, I feel like you shouldn't have released it. At least don't release a quarter of the game, or at least release three-fourths of the game. You know what I mean? As I feel like even though you fleshed out the area, it's still linear, and I feel like it's cheap. The same thing happened with not Final Fantasy, Resident Evil 3. They had a whole bunch of reused assets and a whole bunch of cut content. And these remakes that they're making nowadays, it's just like, look, listen, I get that you want to cash in on the nostalgia, and that's what it is. But I'm not gonna be a blind fanboy to straight up tell you that, well, it's a good game. It made me cry when I first saw it, the intro music. I don't give a fuck. Remember that. Like my favorite game of all time is the old Tomb Raider games from PlayStation One. That's what I liked back then. And if they remade that one, it will be the equivalent of them making the first four levels of the first Tomb Raider, and then trying to sell that to me as a full game. Like, nah, I ain't with that. And a lot of people are just fanboying off of Sony, and it's just because it's an exclusive. They're fanboying like hard. And that's your prerogative. You can do that if you want. You can, but I won't be doing that Just like, yes, I'll pick up The Last of Us, but I'm gonna tell you straight up, I don't give a fuck what kind of story it is or how good the motion capture is or whatever the case is. I'm just gonna be honest with you. It should have had multiplayer in there. That's another company that's releasing half games and shit like that. And that's what I would have bought definitively. The Last of Us 4 is the multiplayer. Yes, I like the storyline back when they weren't making the shit about like lesbian action and shit like that. And do I like lesbian action? No, not really. And do I have a problem with it? No, not really. It's something I'm not seeking. I don't like any relationships within video games where it's in my face. So if it was heterosexual relationships, that would have pissed me off too. I didn't. Yeah, I don't think it's. I mean, it should be in the game if that's what your goal is. But if that's not what you're targeting, yeah, you're gonna have to kill that noise. So I want to move on to my next subject. The PS5 is just consistently on everybody's fucking mind. It's amazing. People are getting excited about fucking the fans that cools the chips at this point in time. Like any morsel of information, Sony has managed because they are starving people for information, well, from information, I should say. And people are going, there's any little piece of information, any little piece, everyone's after. And there's just one thing I want to talk about PlayStation 5 with, but it's not going to be it's going to talk about Xbox, but there's a reason for it talking about Xbox, you know what I mean? So no one knew, or no one knows if it's actually accurate or not. It's a high probability that Microsoft is trying to pinch Sony into a corner by releasing this Lockhart console, which is supposedly a 4 teraflop entry console. Now, two problems with this. The first problem is Microsoft has APIs or low-level programming to support multiple platforms, meaning that you can only get but so far, and when it comes to utilizing the chips itself. Microsoft goes on record by saying that they are going to target the original Xbox from 2013, like all the way back then. So that's a problem because there's things like ray tracing and shit like that that the original Xbox is not going to do or be able to do. And one can say, I mean, you can turn it off, okay, but that's not progressing things. Like even on PC, you don't keep supporting the shit. Sorry, you don't. It's not what you do. The second thing that's a big problem is if having the most teraflops is your goal here, where you want to stomp out the competition, the release an entry level 4 teraflops that supposedly could do ray tracing. I believe the quote here is that the Lockhart to be a 4 teraflop entry point for the next generation consoles, right? It's supposed to be replacing the Xbox One. And it's supposed to have limited ray tracing. So the way that the whole system works is a scaled down version of the Xbox Series X. This Series S is what you would have called the Lockhart. The Lockhart is the code name. But here's the problem. It's running off of a different architecture that is more efficient, which means that it's supposed to be more powerful than the Xbox One X, but the numbers doesn't state that. That's the issue. And if your narrative is about 12 teraflops being the most, what people are going to realize is that these numbers really don't matter. If a 4 teraflop system with a different architecture that's more efficient is more powerful than the original Xbox One X, then what are these numbers exactly? I really honestly believe that Microsoft has basically put themselves in a corner by trying to make that crazy ass narrative. It just seems like it's a company that, as rich as they are, they keep making stupid ass mistakes. Yes, the Xbox is not a big part of Microsoft, but damn, get your shit together, homeboy. Like, what the fuck? I mean, and then truthfully speaking, on PlayStation as well, we want to talk about specs. I remember Phil Spencer talking to That fucking gremlin ugly thing from IGN. He was basically stating that, oh, I'm not a fan of the whole secret sauce thing, and he wasn't giving Ryan McCaffrey, I think his name is, from that unlock shit. He wasn't giving him an accurate or confident um, response. It just wasn't confident when I was looking at it. If you were really confident, you would have been about saying like, "Yo, we stomped at the competition. That we already have them," but he wasn't able to answer that shit. Um, because they don't quite know what's going on with Sony. And Sony has some sort of partnership with AMD, and I'm sure Microsoft does too. But I'm sure they're not going to put their cards out there like they did last generation. Because Microsoft did bite off of them last generation when they created that cell architecture and whatnot. But anyway, this guy named Mike Hargett, supposedly he knows things or is a programmer as well. He went on record by saying there's many things that hasn't showed up in those leaks. There are plenty of secrets that are being well kept. A little smiley face. And you think to yourself like, huh, what else is there that Sony is not telling us? You know what I mean? So honestly, all in all, I really can't wait. I fucking can't wait. I'm pretty fucking hyped. So I'll be definitely keeping my eye out for well, everybody is waiting for Microsoft. I mean, for Sony or Microsoft, really. And funny enough, there were some leaks talking about it's going to be the floodgates are going to unlock for both consoles in May. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. Last subject. Stadia is back in the news. Supposedly, Digital Foundry had to redo their review, which is quite funny. They didn't run the test subjects as optimum as they would have liked, and people were pissed off about it. I guess there's fans of Stadia apparently, so they had to redo a video. And what they said in their video is that they turned off everything um, except for the Stadia on their router. They made sure there was nothing on. I think they were running off for 3 gigabits or 300 gigabits, which in the grand scheme of things, if you want to do something like that, you know, I mean, I would expect it to be a little faster. 300 gigabits isn't a crazy amount for just doing that. People need to understand this too with Stadia. They need they need to understand that when it comes to Stadia, right? That in a perfect world, we're not even talking about data caps because that's a thing too. Just in the United States, we're not even talking about Europe or anything like that. That's a real thing with data caps. But the problem with their here's the problem, and it just baffles me that people are not they're not getting this. Um, when you have multiple people in a house, and some people are fucking gaming, probably somebody's jerking off the porn somewhere, and another person is Netflix, and then you're trying to do some fucking Stadia. You're gonna make your signal unstable. That's another problem, right? So it doesn't matter how many praises Digital Foundry gives it, because they started. Okay, we lowered the response time or whatever the fuck you call it. I don't remember. It's early as shit. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. So excuse me for messing that up. But yeah, they were talking about how they made an improvement by turning everything off, but the Stadia. And then you have fucking fanboys talk about because they ride Digital Foundry's dick too. One little nigga was like, I could compare it to the PlayStation Pro and the PC at 1080p, but really with the highlights, oh my god, it's the best streaming platform. It has excellent loading, it has great graphics. Basically, it's making hardware mostly irrelevant. Like really, currently switch between my 4K TV, work laptop, and Chromecast, and then my a Galaxy S9. It's just fabulous. Even if you want to discount all of that shit, right? If it works out for this dude, which whatever, you still got data caps to worry about. You still got other people in the house to worry about. And then you still have like if something's going on like this pandemic, if there's a problem and they're throttling shit, You're either going to have degradation of image or latency issues. You're always going to have latency issues. There's no way to fix that. But it's like, oh boy, man, I just the stupidity. I can't. I cannot. I can't. I can't. I can't. Mm-mm. I'm so tired of people claiming that like streaming is going to take over. We do not have just in the U.S. alone the infrastructure. I work for a cable company, so I know these things. They don't have the infrastructure to cover everything. People are so self-centered and they think because they live in New York that that's going to fix it. It's not going to fix it. There's people in fucking Minnesota or some kind of fucking, I don't know, grassland or prairie or whatever the case is, and they can't run lines like that. Fuck. Idiots. Idiots. But anyway, I'm gonna be doing a podcast, a special podcast, to commemorate my 350 subscriber meet. There's gonna be some changes. The closer I get to 1,000 subscribers, I don't mind doing everything. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm telling you straight up, you're gonna need to sub to the channel. You're gonna need to be watching these videos. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are not going to sit here for like 17 minutes and hear this shit. But oh well, I'm going to say it in the podcast too. I'm going to have to do more than just that. And then I'm going to slow down the frequency of the podcast too. But, or the giveaways. But I will say this, the giveaways are going to be bigger. You know what I'm saying? So instead of, $10, you'll be looking at $35 or $30 to $35. But you're gonna have to, basically do the whole Discord thing. It's not that hard to sign up for Discord. You sign up and download the app. It really isn't. People are making this really big. So the Discord and be a sub. That's what I'm requiring soon. But I'll talk more about that on the podcast tomorrow. But anyway, I hope I see you there, and thank you so much. If you haven't subbed, please sub. I would definitely appreciate it, and give me a like. Thanks.